Good evening, Debbie.
Hi.
Good.
Oh wait, which Debbie? Hi Debbie.
Either
Hi,
one.
Debbie. Hi, Jason.
So we've got David Colbeth, um, and you, Debbie. So we need at least two more design commissioners.
Yeah, this is Tom
Yes, I would.
Kennedy. I just decided to dial in as opposed to use the browser.
All right. So we've got John Kennedy. So we need
Tom,
one
Tom
more.
Kennedy.
Debbie McDonald.
Uh-huh.
You have numbers for the other design commissioners, and if you do, could you give them a quick call and see if they're having technical issues like we have had? Oh, here we go. Here's more joining.
I don't because I'm at home.
Um, because we're missing two. Pardon with us, folks, as we get the IT stuff squared away.
It took me a second. I knew I had installed it before, but it didn't launch right away, so I had to reinstall, but it worked pretty fast.
Yeah, we're missing.
Jamie and Paul.
Yeah, actually, you know
We
what? I
can wait
think
a couple.
Debbie, I think we
Uh-huh.
may be good. Let me check the bylaws real quick.
Oh yeah, wasn't it 3?
I think we dropped it
You
to three
moved
a
it.
couple years ago for a quorum.
Yes. You moved it to 3 as a quorum.
Yeah, Debbie, that's correct. We have as long as we have three commissioners, we have a quorum.
Let's rock and roll then.
Change that. I forgot we changed that bylaw a couple years ago. So we are
I couldn't
fully
remember when we changed.
functioning and ready to go. So Chair Strauss Wood, I will turn it over to you, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Well, I'm going to call the September 22nd, 2021 Design Commission meeting to order. Debbie McDonald, could you please do roll call, please?
Strauss Boyd.
Here.
Vice Chair Kennedy.
Here,
Commissioner Colbeth.
Here.
Commissioner Weber. Absent. Commissioner Bendon. Absent. And then Commissioner
Commissioner
Parente.
Parente.
Commissioner Parente is also absent. City Staff Jason Sullivan, Planning and Building Supervisor.
Here.
Debbie McDonald, Design Commission Clerk here.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. The meeting minutes from August 25th of this year. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those? And are there any additional corrections to those? May I get a motion to pass those as they are written?
Move to accept.
I second that.
A second? Any discussion?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes have been approved. All right. Let's see. Any public comments or concerns for this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to old and continuing business. Jason, do we have any old or continuing business for this evening?
We do not.
Thank you. Let's move on to new business, to the really fun stuff. So the first up on our agenda this evening is the Kohl's Department Store, and the second review will be for the Mountain View Chiropractic and Wellness Center. So Jason, do you want to go ahead and take us through the staff report for the Kohl's Department Store to begin with?
I will. So we did receive an application for to remodel the the old Albertsons building into a Kohl's department store. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Nance with Kohl's to do kind of explain the project. Once he's done explaining the project, I will circle back and kind of walk you through kind of our review, any conditions of approval. So if you'll bear with me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen so you'll be able to see the PowerPoint presentation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. This is Jeff Nance. I'm with R.A. Smith. I'm working with Kohl's for this new development. We have a number of our team members on the call tonight. I'll start with the representatives from Kohl's. My main contact there is Eric Borkenhagen. I don't believe Eric was able to join us tonight, but Kyle Thuford and Joni Anderson, I believe, are on the call. They can answer any questions relative to their operation. If you have any questions for that. From our side, for R.A. Smith, I have Ryan Landcor. He's our civil engineer on the project. Also, the architect, Bill Lewis with Richard Bowen Architecture, is on our team. And our landscape architect for this project is Sean Parsons. So with that, I'll go ahead and give a brief description of our project, then turn it over to Jason. If you have any questions, our team can answer those questions hopefully for you. So next slide, please, Jason. Okay, this is the existing Albertsons building. Kohl's is looking to renovate it. This slide represents the existing the elevations of the existing building and what we're proposing. As you can see from the top front elevation, west elevation is the existing conditions of the Albertsons space. And Kohl's would be demolishing a portion of the canopy structure along the front of the building and creating a new entrance feature. We will be painting the exterior of the building and adding design elements for their signage with EFS. We've worked closely with staff to meet the design standard requirements for the exterior facade changes. If you also notice, we will be adding some landscaping and sidewalk features at the front entrance of the building there. Next slide, please, Jason. Okay, this is the left elevation, also known as the north side elevation on Route 410. This side of the building has substantial mature trees along that facade. Again, if you notice, we're adding those pilaster elements along the side of the building to conform with the city design standards. We're using the painted CMU as well as the EFS material to articulate the elements along the side of the building. This is also showing the rear of the building, which is basically hidden by that retaining wall along the rear of the building. It will also be painted. Next slide, please. This is the towards the other side of the building, the right side of the building, or the south end of the building, the loading end of the building. This will be painted to match the front and the sides of the building as well. Okay, for the site work, this is just a representation of the aerial of the existing conditions of the site. As you can see, the large building there is the Albertson space. Next slide, please. So what we're proposing to do for site work is fairly minor work, and we're doing this in terms of satisfying the ADA requirements to provide egress and ingress to the front of the building. We've painted the sidewalk, or excuse me, we've added new concrete along the sidewalk as well as planters, and new ADA accessible parking stalls out in the parking lot. The old existing handicap spaces, we're going to be using those for customer pickup spots for Kohl's employees to bring out the merchandise to the customer. Next slide, please. This is a landscape plan. Again, pretty modest plan, but what we're doing is creating large landscape islands in the front of the store next to the main entrance. The new islands generated from the new parking stalls for the ADA compliance will be landscaped as well. We're also showing any vegetation that has died on the site. We will be replacing those, and that's pretty much the extent of what we're proposing for landscaping. Next slide, please. And this is just an enlargement of that same detail. As you can see, that we're providing a variation of shrubs, trees, and ground cover for those planters. Next slide, please. And for lighting, we're proposing to change out the existing lighting fixtures to LED fixtures. And we've provided a foot candle rating here. As you can see, our entrance drive, our average foot candle rating is 2.64. Along the front sidewalk is 2.41. Our main parking lot is 2.18, the average foot candles, and then along the loading area to the rear of the building is 0.17 foot candles. So that's pretty much our presentation. I wanted to keep it kind of simple. This the last plan there is just a detail of our grading. If you wanted to see that, we can certainly go into that type of detail if you wish to look at it. But I wanted to open it up to Jason. If you have any questions, or if the board has any questions, we're here to answer those.
Jason, you want to take yourself off of mute?
Thanks, Debbie. So I'll walk through kind of the staff report and how we kind of reviewed this. As it's not a new building, but there are a lot of exterior improvements. We did look to 1839-070, which contains our general design standards for the Midtown area. And they have picked 3 different kind of options for meeting those design standards. The first is the EFS side panels, and placing those on the building to create some sort of modulation. Typically, we do require those to be 2 feet in depth, but because it's an existing building and the footing issues, we did go ahead and allow for a 9-inch one. We felt with the mature tree canopy, the grade change, and the 2-foot, these EFS panels, along with some other measures, it would provide sufficient modulation along that one blank wall, especially given that it's significantly below grade. Along the front of the building, where the main public entrances are, they will be meeting those types of standards. They're also doing a change in material and change in color with building planes. And finally, along the front of the building and also along the side, they're using vegetation and landscaping to help break up the mass of the building. So we felt that it complied with the design standards in 1839-070. The parking was sufficient. As mentioned, they are upgrading the parking to make it ADA compliant. So we did support that change. And it does move the stalls a little bit closer to the front entrance and meets all current ADA standards for slope and grade. As this is an existing building, the only landscaping we looked at was where they were making landscaping changes, and the modification of those landscaping islands and to the front of the building will comply with the code. The only condition that we had related to this is that the planting plan called out for 12 inches of soil. Our landscaping code requires 18 inches in those situations, so that would be a condition of approval that we'll basically put as a condition of approval on the approved landscaping plan that they could have 18 inches of soil in those areas. So we did recommend approval. We did in the staff report. I didn't identify 3 conditions of approval. I have a small 4th one to add. It is that the changes are limited to what's shown on the approved plans. We need a written report by the landscape architect that all the landscaping was installed per the approved plans, and that they installed the correct planting soil depths. A separate sign permit is required for all sign. Nothing in the design review approval approves the sign. And the 4th one is any of the LED lights and any of the exterior lights that are installed need to be dark sky compliant. And that's been a condition that we've been pretty routinely enforcing. I just forgot to add it to the staff report. I believe that the lights are shielded, so it's not a big deal, but just to document it, we'll be adding that as a 4th condition of approval. And with that, I can answer any questions. I know this is one that the Design Commission has asked me about for at least 10 years. When are we going to do something with the Albertsons building? Well, it finally has come to pass that Kohl's has done. And then from an economic development standpoint, having another kind of clothing retailer in the city was something that we did notice that we needed to have. So it kind of meets with all the intents of the Midtown core element and is consistent with the city's design guideline.
All right, let's open it up to the floor. So, commissioners, any questions? I never pay attention to the dog.
Commissioner Colbeth has raised his hand. Chair Charles Boyd.
I think this is the first time on the virtual side of things, so I don't know the exact protocol, so I figured I'd raise my virtual hand there. Thank you all for coming
No,
tonight.
you're good. Jump right in there.
Thank you all for coming tonight. This is a great presentation, and yes, many citizens are looking forward to it. Thank you. This is a great presentation. I guess I'm the kind of the self-proclaimed roof czar. I didn't see any pictures or images about the roof coloring. A lot of our large footprint stores have a very bright white roof, and that has been a contention with some residents, especially those that overlook these buildings. Is there any comment, or I didn't see any notes in there about the coloring for the roof? Is it just going to be your standard snow white, or is there options for that?
Well, I believe there's no changes really going with the roof, so the roof would remain as in its current condition, and we haven't really received any complaints about this one. The one that was really the big one was the Lowe's, because it was right at the base of that hill. This one, because it sits lower, the areas that would most likely be impacted are the commercial areas to the east, which is the Visconsi Mountain View Crossing project. And along that line is the back of Costco and a parking lot for Costco. So the kind of the impacts to residents would be much lessened in this area due to that location. I can check the current aerial photo to see kind of what the current top is. Hold on.
I know it's an older building too. I didn't know when they would be planning to resurface or recondition it.
Yeah, this is Bill Lewis, architect for Kohl's. So the existing building, it's a ballasted gravel roof that we're planning to reuse. We did have a roof report completed, and they said it's still got a good 10, 15 years left on it based on the type of roof. So right now we are doing very little. It's a gravel roof. It's kind of a natural stone color.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
There's
Yeah,
a
this
big
is Tom
roof
Kennedy.
in that area are gray.
Yeah, this is Tom Kennedy. I live in that area, so I'm very familiar with that site. And from a residential standpoint, it's very difficult to see the roof. There's really not any residences nearby that are higher in elevation. But the only way to see the roof is from an adjacent, like a taller commercial building or whatever. So.
Any other questions, comments for our presenters this evening for the Coles project?
So we do have a draft motion on page 4 of the packet, which is on the cover sheet, which is the recommended action. If you want to make the motion, all you need to say is "I move" and then read the recommended action, and that would move forward the design review application with those 4 conditions that we laid out.
Do I have a commissioner who will make that motion?
I'd be happy to just kind of scroll to it. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I scrolled away from it.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so it's difficult to flip between the screens and stuff, or the items that are open.
I move that we approve the design review application as conditioned in the report.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? So Jason, because there are one additional condition on that, do we need to cite that in this motion?
I would say if the commission understood that we added that condition, and I get nods of heads from the design team that they understand it, I would say no. I think we're all understanding that 4th condition would be added to this administration's decision.
Friendly amendment approved.
There we go. Commissioner Colbeth added it as a friendly amendment that we'd add the dark sky compliant lighting.
Right. Perfect. Thank you for that. If there are no other discussion items, all those in favor of approving the design review application as conditioned, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried, and the design review application has been approved. Congratulations, Coles. We're looking forward to having you as a neighbor in our neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
So, Coles, design U team, you can drop off. I'll be getting your decision ready tomorrow. Any of the conditions of approval, because of the nature they are, there won't be a need to resubmit. We'll just kind of conditionally approve out because they're kind of minor. Just make sure your architect and landscapers are aware of that when they're doing the work in the field. But if you have questions, please circle with me tomorrow. But we should be rolling forward on those decisions tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, Jason. So the next item on our agenda this evening for review is the Mountain View Chiropractic and Wellness Center. So, Jason, would you like to introduce the team, and then we'll go through your staff report?
All right. So we have Jamie Sandenberg and Dr. John with Mountain View Chiropractic. I think that's the whole team. There might be other. I apologize if I'm missing people. Jamie has been the one that I've been primarily emailing with. So this is a new commercial building in what we call the Mountain View Marketplace. It is kind of adjacent to what we call the restaurant building, which is the building that has Habit Burger, Mod Pizza, and Crumble Cookie. So we're going to put the Wellness Center right next to all of the yummy foods.
Ooh, yum.
So this project is, once again, it's a little different than the Coles site because it is vested to a older zoning code and also is subject to a development agreement and environmental impact statement, which contain some additional requirements in addition to the zoning code. So Jamie, are you ready to walk through the project? And then I can kind of get to the staff report after that. Do you have a PowerPoint or anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, actually what I was going to say is I am the project architect on the job, and we have been chatting a lot, but you've also been chatting a lot with Cameron Walker,
Okay.
my partner in crime on this project, and I'm actually going to hand the floor to him because he wants to lead the project, lead the presentation for you guys. So I'm going to hand it off to him.
And
Get
I'm
it,
not gonna,
Cameron.
and
He's
I'm not
got
gonna lie.
PowerPoint. He would like to screen share. So,
Yeah, it's just up at the top. There's the
yep.
third button over, and you just go ahead and share your PowerPoint.
Thank you much.
And I apologize. I jumped into this one in the last minute. We had a staff transition, and I had to take over toward the end. So
No worries. I'm Cameron Walker. I'm a project architect with Ferguson Architecture. Can you see my screen okay?
yes,
Looks
Okay.
great.
Excellent. So just a brief introduction to the team. So Dr. John brought Ferguson Architecture on to design the new location for Mountain View Chiropractic and Wellness Center. So yeah, you've met Jamie, my colleague, and then Ben Ferguson is also on the line with, he's our principal in charge. Our design team also includes civil and landscape with Barghausen consulting engineers, and then we're working with Swenson Safe Ajay for structural, and then Shukart is our general contractor on this job. Like Jason mentioned, we're in the Mountain View Marketplace development, lot 4, just south of Highway 410, adjacent to the Costco and the Crumble Cookie. So zooming in and looking at our site a little more closely, you'll see on the west side here, this is the front entrance for both the Mountain View Chiropractic space, and then additionally there's a secondary expansion for future retail tenants on the south side. But main entrances for both are on the west side here, so this is the main visitor parking lot. And then there's a drive to the east side where there's additional staff parking and service elements back. The parking lot is developed so that there's a generous tree canopy cover over most of the parking lot, and then it opens up a bit to the northwest to provide visibility onto the site. Additionally, there's parking islands, variegated parking, and landscaping elements. There's also additional landscaping buffers you'll see on the elevations to the north and on the west side as well. And then we do have the park bench and pine cone seating element down here on the southwest corner of the site. Just a quick view at the floor plan. So on the north side is where chiropractic happens. The main entrance is here with reception. On the south side of this space is all the massage areas. And then what you see down here is a big open space for future retail expansion. It's currently one big open space, but has potential to be divided into two retail spaces. And then with service back in the back, so trash enclosure and fire riser rooms. As we look at the elevations, so up here on the west is the main entry. So we've gone with a material palette of ground face CMU, a white color. Additionally, we're going with a contemporary black anodized storefront and powder coated steel for both the canopy and the front facade over both the retail and over the Mountain View Chiropractic entrance. As you go around to the south side, it's more or less just an open facade of the ground face CMU, punctuated with black steel elements with our scuppers and downspouts, and then with our parapet caps as it wraps around the building. And then continuing on to the east side, this is where we've got our secondary entrances and exits for the retail in the back, and then for massage and for the chiropractic. And then on the north side, and you can see here where we're providing landscape buffers, just low shrubbery and things in between the sidewalk and the building. And that's it, just a brief walkthrough. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Jason, do you want to could you please go through the staff report?
yeah, I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of walk through this because there's a number of different elements and design issues. So just let me pull up my screen here real quick. I'm going to pull up the landscaping plan because most of my comments are really in the staff report were really kind of focused on the landscaping side of things and not necessarily on the building design elements themselves. Looked well, good. It was mainly we had some review comments on the design elements. So I'm just kind of getting everything pulled up here. Apologize. Not as good doing this on the technology side.
So, Jason, are you looking at the conclusion, section 4? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I was going to kind of walk through the analysis section. I just am trying to get everything up on the same screen. It's and not only that, I got a new computer this week, so I am all kinds of behind. I think I got it figured out. So do this one more time. Okay, so you should see the site plan now. And I'll just kind of scroll into some areas that we kind of identified where there's some changes that need to be made to kind of bring the project into compliance with kind of all of the standards when overlaid together. The first one is under the old landscaping code. In general, the landscaping met all of the standards. There's just a couple of tweaks that need to be made to some of the placement and some of the sizes. So the first one is in the old landscaping code, the trees required to be 30 feet on center along the front property line. The northernmost tree is about 41 feet from the northern property line. So those trees need to be either a tree needs to be added or the trees are spaced really tight. They could be spread out to make sure that you're hitting that 30 feet. So that last tree needs to be at least 30 feet from the most northern property line. Currently, it's about 41 feet. So that's a kind of a smaller change there. I think one of the bigger changes in the landscaping plan was that the plan currently calls for 2-inch caliper trees, which is what the code at the time required. However, the development agreement and the environmental impact statement that was prepared for the site does require the use of 3-inch caliper trees as a mitigation measures for the clear cut of that forest when it was done. So that's not in the code. It's in the development agreement and also the environmental impact statement. So that was one of the conditions that we added in addition to kind of relocating that tree or making that spacing work, was that the tree caliper be increased to 3 inches. Also, the code required that all trash areas be screened with landscaping. The current design does not include any screening around the trash enclosure, so that landscaping would need to be added. The walls that are there are just fine to stay, but the code at the time, 1614-110, did require that there be a dense landscaping screen. So there isn't a standard that has to meet other than it has to be landscaping and dense. And we usually leave that to the landscape architect to figure out how to kind of meet that generalized standard. And it needs to be 5 feet in depth. The only other thing that we saw with the landscaping plan was that along the northern property line, there needed to be the type 3 landscaping installed. We do know that there was some confusion when this was first brought in. There was an easement shown over that area. However, the property owner of Wisconsin is in the process of doing a short plat alteration that would remove that easement along the north property line, but not the one along the east property line. So let me just kind of scroll into that area. kind of this area right here that was all grass. At the time this initially came in, there was a belief that there was kind of an easement that went through here. That easement actually was removed, or is in the process of being removed through the short plat alteration, which also is the one that creates this kind of northern property line, different than how you see the parcels laid out now. So there would need to be that type 3 screening buffer along that northern property line, and it's substantially there. There's a few little areas that would need to be added.
So Jason, to your point, the new lot line notation there, that's what you're referring to, correct?
Correct. If you look at the parcel now, it kind of jogs to the north and then west, and actually kind of went about 20 feet further to the north. But the property owner, who was still Visconti, is kind of reconfiguring all the lots along this side, and that new lot line is one of those things. We've already reviewed that documentation and approved it and have called for final documentation. We're just waiting for them to sign it so that we can sign it and get it recorded. We expect that to be done by the end of the month.
Great, thank you.
There was no problem with the setbacks. There was no problem with the open space requirement or the building height. As I said, the exterior design of the building itself is really well done and will fit nicely within all the other buildings that are out in that area. It has a kind of same contemporary modern look to it, but with different materials and a slightly different. Well, we did determine that it is compliant with the city's lighting standards, and that it has sufficient parking. As noted, when I was quickly getting these things ready for the design commission, I forgot to throw the standard. I think I forgot to throw the standard one on this one too, that all exterior lighting needs to be dark sky compliant. No, it is on this one. So that would be the only condition that we have as it relates to lighting, is that all lighting be dark sky compliant. So this is where this project gets a little different than most projects in the city, and this is the same staff report and staff analysis that we've done for all of the projects, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and the Lot 7 building. So, some of the general community character elements that it was required to meet are met by the street and the street furniture that's being installed, which in this case is a bench, and you can kind of see it here on the plan. That's being installed as part of that amenity plan that was developed by Visconti. However, there were a number of things that were done in the element to kind of, in both the EIS and the development agreement, to develop this area as not a traditional shopping center. One of those things is that the parking is located away from the building entrances. So if you look at the Mod Pizza building, the parking spots right directly in front of the door, there are none. They're landscaped islands with kind of brick in them. And in the Chipotle and the Chick-fil-A, the main entrances are off of their kind of dining plaza areas. I do believe there's a side entrance on both of those that's screened by landscaping. And then, of course, the Costco has no parking directly in front of its doors. So that was one item here that we did call out. If you look here at the plan, I can scroll out. There is some, in both instances, there's parking stalls located directly in front of the building entrances. We did allow in the past, when they're not directly in front of the door, to be acceptable, which is what we did with the Mod Pizza and Habit Burger building. There's parking in front of the building, but not directly in front of the entrances. And so that's one thing that would have to be addressed before we approve it, is compliance with that requirement. The buildings provide great weather protection. The building design itself is really well done. It was just that requirement from the EIS and the development agreement.
Can I ask a question about that, Jason?
Yes.
Is there a distance that's okay? Like if you look at the retail entrances down below on the south, I mean, they're a good 15, 10, well, at least 5, I would say 12 feet minimum from the parking spaces. Is that okay in your mind, or is that still not meeting the code?
The way that was originally written in the EIS is all these buildings would basically be adjacent to the front sidewalk, and all the parking would be in the rear. When you go back and you start reading the EIS and the development agreement that was done 20 some years ago, we have tried to work with developers to kind of massage these things together, which is why I think like Chick-fil-A and Chipotle, they did kind of a patio area out front for their main entrance, and then the Habit Burger, when I worked with Sean with Wisconsin, we just eliminated the stalls directly in front of the door. And I think we put landscape islands in those areas. So, I mean, if you want to kind of sketch something up, and I don't know if I want to design it here on the fly tonight.
Yeah, we can
but
talk
it would be
behind the scenes.
Yeah, it would be something we would need to look at. You know, but I can just tell you what it said. It just said the parking is not in front of the building entrances.
Understood.
It doesn't give a distance or anything like that.
So right now, the main entrance, it looks like stall number 11 is right there in front of that. Is that correct, Jason? Am I reading that?
It would be stall 11, 13, and 15.
Because those are the other two retail
stalls.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, Jason?
Yes.
Is there, I mean, some of the people that come to our office can barely walk. Is there any exception medically to that rule?
No, that's why we would allow for some stalls to be right in front of the building. We're talking basically the ones directly in front of the entrance door.
Okay, see, okay.
So
you said if we moved it.
So like we're looking at probably stall 11, stall 13, stall 15. I mean, I don't know how you would do it down here, but that's the kind of the most lenient we've been when we did the Chipotle and everything. Is we had that big. John and I had a very 3-hour long conversation about this, and where we landed was if we just didn't have stalls right in front of the door, we could say that there are no parking located in front of building entrances. So if you look across the street at Habit Burger, they do have parking in front of the building, but there's nothing directly in front of those door entrances. They put like a landscaping island or a landscaping tree.
Okay.
So
with that,
I don't think you have to eliminate all the parking, but there is going to need to be some massaging there to kind of make that work. You may be able to widen it out a little bit and make the landscape, maybe pull the landscape. One thing that we did allow on Chipotle on one of their entrances is they put their building landscaping between the parking and right behind the parking, so that it buffered the walking areas from the parking. So that would be another option. I think it's something that we can look at as part of a review if there's options, things that you would want us to explore. The other option is just to kind of widen the parking lot down into that area that's grass and just kind of eliminate those stalls in front of the door anyway, and still have the kind of at the edges of the building and maybe in the middle. But I'll leave that to Jamie and Ben and Cameron to kind of come up with some ideas. And if they want to throw red line sketches at me and say, hey, do you think this will work? I'll gladly look at those before you resubmit, so you're not burning re-review time that way.
So
quick
Jason,
question, last question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
The striped lines
go ahead.
between ADA parking, is that considered a parking spot?
Good question.
No, those are going to be
lift walk aisles, basically.
They're lift
For vans.
areas for vans, yeah.
I guess
my point is, if I move the ADA over and put the stripe in front of the door, would that be considered blockage, or would that be excessive?
I don't want to say yes or no right here on the fly. I think that is a good, viable option that we should explore.
Because that would make it for the, people who could barely walk and handicap could just come in a lot easier.
That would address the part of it, but it wouldn't address the other part down. We may have to come up with some other options there.
Yeah,
On
the other.
13 and 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
a very good, I think, option. I'm always hesitant to design on the fly during the middle of a meeting.
Sure, I just want to know what that spot would be called if it got.
It is a walkway of some sort. It's not a parking stall. No.
Okay.
So, Jason, the question that I have is, again, in reference to the bench park area there on the corner as you approach in. And I'm not pulling mentally, I'm not remembering exactly the description there, but could the landscaping buffer requirements, could accommodate that so they would be able to eliminate that corner and move that over to where those, in front of the doors to the office and to the other retail environments?
No, this amenity that I'm kind of got highlighted on the screen right now is required to be right off the sidewalk. That was kind of how Sean Juris and Visconsi kind of met a bigger condition. We designed this amenity plan and put where these little bump outs along the sidewalk would be. And really where it's at really wouldn't add or fix the parking issue because it's tucked in a corner where you would have landscaping anyway.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments, clarifications from the commission? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Commissioner Strauss-Bond. I just want to run through the conditions of approval so that everybody kind of understands
Thank you.
what we're adding as conditions of approval. So the first one is that that tree the tree plan along 205 needs to be revised so that the trees are at least 30 feet on center as measured from the property line. That means you can go to the property line and come 30 feet before you do your first one. That's fine, but that would be one of the things that we're going to be looking for. Adding the 3-inch caliper trees, providing the vegetative screening around the dumpster, the type 3 landscaping along the northern property line, this parking stall issue that we've been discussing. And then the other part of the parking was, and we've done this, and this is what was on the other project, is there needs to be a way either adding landscaping or wheel stops to prevent the cars from encroaching into the walkway. When you have a curb there, I know people show the nice little design and says it's that stalls 20 feet from beginning to the curb. People put their wheels right on the back of the curb and then overhang their vehicles into the pedestrian area. So we've done either landscaping or wheel stops to meet that requirement to prevent that from happening. We've talked about the parking. The shrubs along the eastern property line need to be removed because they're in the stormwater easement, and our stormwater crews did not want to be in the position of having to rip up people's mature landscaping in order to maintain that stormwater line. It can be grass, but just the shrubs need to be removed. The side amenities that we talked about need to be installed prior to final inspection. The dark sky compliant lighting, recording of this plat alteration that we had mentioned, separate signage under separate sign permit, providing the as-built for the irrigation, and then as part of the EIS and development agreement, in addition to any local impact fee, they are required to pay 35% of the Pierce County TIF. That fee is paid directly to Pierce County, and then the receipt is provided to us before we will issue the building permit. So I'm going to take it off screen sharing. We can answer the question. As I said, I'm hesitant to do a design on the fly, but I think we've talked about some viable options related to that, and I think we'll just need to work with the architects team to come up with a design that kind of fulfills and meets that requirement that was spelled out in kind of the environmental impact document.
Jason, is that front of the building, nothing in front of the building, is that a forever sight line, or is it a 10 foot or 20 foot or 50 foot.
And that's what we don't
It's
have.
not specific
good-
here.
Yeah, it's not specific. So, and this is why all these projects in the Mountain View Crossing there's a lot of discussions around what was meant. When the EIS was written 20 years ago, there was a discussion about how this project would be designed both from an environmental standpoint, but also kind of an aesthetic point. And one of the things that it was trying to envision was if you're going to do a shopping center, it doesn't look like the shopping center next door. It really said, we're going to do something that's not your standard shopping center. So I always tell people, if you can look next door and see it, it probably isn't the right way to do it. And so there was this line in there that said there will be no parking the parking will not be in front of the building entrances. And will be placed at the back of sidewalks. So we have interpreted that at least to provide that there's a walkable sidewalk in front of the building and there's no parking directly in front of the doors. How far back do you go before it's not directly in front of the door? There's nothing to guide me. That's why I said it's looking at the intent of it and what we're trying to do. We did allow Visconsi to leave parking in front of the building, but just remove the stalls directly in front of the door. So that when you walk out the door, you're not walking right into a car. And so that's what we did on that one. I know on Chipotle, they had to do the building landscaping and had a side entrance there, and they proposed, well, what if we take our building landscaping that we're required to do, and instead of doing it right up against the building, we put a sidewalk in and then do the 5-foot landscape buffer all the way down, which we accepted as not being directly in front since there's this intervening landscaping strip. Don't know if that would be the best option in the front of a building. As I said, that was both Chipotle and Chick-fil-A, that was their side entrances. So I think it's just going to be coming up with a solution that works. I am intrigued by the ideal of maybe flipping at least for the chiropractic side, the ADA stalls around so that the ADA ramp is right in front of the door. I can see some viability and legitimacy in that. I mean, it's just something I need to do in my brain for a little bit. But then the other ones, I don't know if it would just be providing a plaza there and then just putting those 2 or 3 extra stalls on the end of the parking lot.
Yeah, because what I'll say, Jason, is that with that retail, the idea of retail in general is to make it fluid and movable, like to make the front entrance not be pinned to one spot. And so that makes it more difficult when we are forced to choose a stall to not be in front of, you know what I mean? Retail is supposed to be a little bit more flexible for the tenant's needs. So that's
Right.
kind of where the design was trying to go. And I know that Visconsi's intentions were really good at in their planning stages, but it doesn't allow for the flexibility. So maybe we can work back and forth to see what we can interpret here.
Yeah, I don't know. Jamie, do you remember if the code had a requirement for end caps in this case?
End caps?
Yeah, landscaping on the end caps.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
I don't know. Like I said, we'll just have to talk about it and come up with a solution. I mean, that was just Vacancy's. John was like, I'm just going to pull these 4 stalls out. Will you accept that? And I said, they're not in front of the door anymore. But there may be a better, more elegant design solution that provides something there.
Yep, we're all about elegant solutions, so we'll figure something out with you.
Yeah, I think we can figure something out.
Yep, our goal is to just make a really top-notch building for Dr. John, but also to make it usable for his patients who can barely walk. So, we'll find a good medium with you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
ADA strips aren't really beautiful or elegant necessarily, but maybe 2 more in front of those doors to the south that still allow access and the ramps that may be simple. You don't have to go with curbing and all that, which would make it difficult for somebody to come in. Dr. John's idea of moving that one to the north a little bit, maybe adding 2 more in front of those would provide more fluid access for clients in and out. Again,
at least the striping idea would be less permanent and would be maybe if you had a retail tenant move in and want to move the front door just a couple notches over, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You move your striping.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think we can find a solution. I don't think it's a breaking the bank kind of deal. I think it's just making some tweaks on the on the landscaping plan.
Maybe it could be a double option with striping, and then using that Chipotle idea of the landscape strip. You're going to need some kind of landscape strip anyway for the parking buffer for the overhang. Maybe that could be incorporated to provide some additional non-frontage coverage.
And another option is one of the doors could access off the south side of the building. Right? I mean, if this door right here moves down in this area, then
we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh, sorry. Moves down toward the corner of the building or south side of the building, then I think it's just kind of playing with different options, and whatever Dr. John and the architect team comes up with. If you want to shoot me some red line options, we can take a look at that and kind of have that discussion.
So, commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments for the team?
Congratulations. Looks like a great building.
Yeah,
It really is very nice.
We appreciate that, thank you. Simplicity
Do
of
I
materials
have
to
a-
keep the costs down, and that's what we try to do, but you got to still make it look good. There's some good modern
Yeah, well,
buildings in that
absolutely.
area, so I mean, for what they are, for retail, they're nice little modern buildings in there.
Yeah, and you want it to continue to look nice for 10 years, too. You don't want it to, have a 2 to 5 year life expectancy of materials. So, yeah, nice work. Could I get a motion to accept this plan with the noted conditions?
I'd move that we approve the design review application as conditioned in the report with the modifications as noted, or discussion and modifications as noted.
Yeah, I second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, Jason. Congratulations, Dr. John and your team. This is a really great project, and we're looking forward to, again, having another amazing neighbor in our neighborhood. So thank you.
So what I'll do, I'm going to do the design conditions the way we have them, knowing that it doesn't prescribe a specific design solution so that we can get the design review decision issued. Dr. John, if you want to start, and I know your building permit's getting close. We've got a couple of things I think you're working on with my building team. But if you want to start sending me kind of some sketches, I will be working with Mary Reinbold, who will be taking this project over, and we can kind of get you an answer pretty quickly on that before you spend time putting the pen and paper, if you just want to do it on kind of red line sketches of what you're thinking. That way you don't have to go through the expense of actually designing it now before we say it will or won't work.
You can do that. Sounds great.
Thank you all for your time.
All
Appreciate it.
right. Thank you.
Question.
No, I think Dr. John had something
and
to
if
say.
you- Oh, I'm sorry.
The next step. And also,
Dr. John, I think you're cutting out.
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
now you're back.
You're good now. Try it again. Say the whole thing again.
I'm curious what the next steps are. So let's say we draw the red lines. Like, what's the timelines are we looking at? I like to tell my patients, hey, we're moving, so they don't get lost. Like when we build, and they go to the location, they
When it comes to batting around the red lines, I think I'll be having answers for you that day I get them. And maybe I'll get on the phone with Jamie or Cameron or Ben, whoever wants to have that discussion, and we can walk and to have that discussion as we walk through them. When I worked that with Wisconsin, I think it took us 48 hours to come up with a solution that worked, which is why I'm not holding up the design review decision, because I want to clear that hurdle. I know you're getting close with the building side. And then you'll have to tweak the actual landscaping plans and resubmit them once we have a agreed upon solution addressing all the comments and conditions, and then we would be able to sign off the building permit, but we won't hold up the design review. So after tonight, you will clear your land use hurdle, as they would say. You would be done with land use, and it would just be these items getting worked out in the building permit.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. So if the team would like to get back to your evenings, we'll let you go. If you want to hang around for the rest of our meeting, you're certainly welcome to.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jason, go to the order. Any correspondence?
No.
Any staff comments?
Only one is we will have a meeting on October 12th. I believe that's the correct date.
It's supposed to, so right now we've got it showing as October 13th, so that's not correct then.
No, it is October 13th. The document's correct.
Okay.
I said it wrong.
Okay.
Which is the second Wednesday of the month. We're going to be trying to limit design commission minutes to the second Wednesday of every month because Debbie and I now pretty much have every commission in the city. And so in order to keep these things moving, we're having to limit commissions to kind of one night a month, which is why Debbie's not here. She actually has art commission on the fourth Wednesday of the month. So in order to kind of make all this work, we're going to limit design commissions to the Tuesdays, and then we would be able to that second Wednesday, and we'll just kind of know that that's when we're going to be bringing things forward. We do have the
Perfect. Okay.
Walmart bank teller grocery delivery system.
Pneumatic tube.
Yeah, which is interesting, but that will be on the October 12th design commission. After that, October 13th design commission. After that, we really don't have any other projects that I'm aware of in the hopper right now. But that's not to say we won't get one 2 days from now.
Okay, terrific. Anything else on staff comments?
No.
Okay. Commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments?
No.
All right.
For me.
Hearing none, may I have an motion? May I have a motion? Oh my goodness, a motion to adjourn our design commission meeting this evening.
I heard
Since he did
Somebody like
since he
to?
did it, he did it in mime. I seconded in mime.
Yeah.
I always
Any
forget that
discussion?
mute button.
It's a tough one, Tom, I know. Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:02
Have a nice night. Thanks for
p.m.
everything.
Hey,
Okay.
thank you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.